Hello everyone, it's Jacqueline here. I am sharing a lot of art books with you today. So I have two stacks here of the books that I have. The first one being more of the art techniques and different things of how you can learn. And the second one being a bit more reference material and workbook type books. Ultimately, it doesn't really matter that they're in two piles. I have a lot of books to go through with you today. So I just kind of separated them a wee bit. I recently on my social media posted about how I was getting back into the basics of drawing and using graphite because I've been on this kick of doing more graphite drawings that I'm excited to share with you soon. I bought this book, The Botanical Art Techniques, by the American Society of Botanical Artists, edited by Carol Wooden and Robin A. Jess. This is a really good book. I shared about it. People were like, ooh, what is this book? What other recommendations do you have? Now, I don't have a comprehensive list. This is just what I have. I bought a few of these books online and then I've thrifted most of the other ones. Because you know me, I like thrifting a lot. It's just so helpful, just relearning how to shade, how to use different pencils and the softness and the hardness of all the leads. So that is the part that I am currently going through, is more of the graphite part. As it goes on, you can then start doing colored pencils and bringing color into it. And so that's something that I'm working up towards. So for now, I'm just doing the graphite part, but this just has so many things. It has the different shapes and it helps break down the flowers and the leaves into shapes, gives you techniques of how to apply pressure and light pressure, how to shade, how to use blenders, just all of those wonderful things. And I'm sure that there's even more techniques in here that I have not even begun to learn, but I'm very excited to keep doing that. So if you're into drawing flowers and plants and want to become, I don't know, just more proficient, more better at it, this is a really good book that I recommend. And it's really pretty when it sits on my desk. It's always really, really pretty. The Law's Guide to Nature Drawing and Journaling, written and illustrated by John Muir Laws. You can go online to the John Muir Laws and they have so many wonderful things on their site. But I really, really liked this art technique book that is also geared towards nature and nature journaling and just what you need to bring when you go out into the field and how you can observe nature and notice things. And I really, really enjoyed this book as well. It gives you prompts for observing different things. It gives you stories. Right now I mostly just go out in nature to paint what I see, but I really enjoy this book teaching me to be more curious while I'm out there and observing, and that's just the beginning of it, just the tip of the iceberg as I'm continuing to learn from here. And it teaches you how to sketch with markers and using graphite and shortcuts and hacks and color mixing guides and learning about values and just so much in here. As you can see, I'm not very far. I have just a little postcard as my bookmark. But I really, really, really like this book. I also found this lady I have been following for probably 10 years. Her name's Kristen Rogers. She has two adorable daughters, and she always does amazing nature-inspired crafts and just, being a kid and being curious and being out in nature. And so she created this company, Wild and Free, and made a nature journal. And this gives you wonderful pictures, but the supplies you need, how to draw different things like bugs, and how you go out and put together a little kit for you and your kids. She actually also makes called The Young Naturalist, and this is more so geared towards kids, definitely, as where this one's geared towards you doing it with kids, I would say. And you don't have to do this with kids. You can also do it by yourself. I don't have any kids, so it's like going out on morning walks and having a nature journal party, and also kind of like this nature drawing and journaling guidebook the same way, but just more exercises and fun little things that you can do. So I really enjoy these two books. Another book that I have thrifted, which I will give some thrifting tips here in a moment, but I'll just go through the books that I have thrifted. So The Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain by Betty Edwards is such a good book of learning to draw. And again, I'm trying to go back to the basics of drawing and then making my drawing skills even better. I used to be really good at it back when I was in high school and college, but then I started getting away from it, and now I'm trying to get back in the flow. And so this is just really good techniques and just the more like you're in a classroom type of a setting. So I really like going through this. I thrifted this. I don't have a sticker on it, but I probably thrifted it for $3 or $4. So you can always find art books at thrift stores as well. So this is another one that I really enjoy going through. I remember reading this years ago. So getting my hands on a nice copy of it has been wonderful. So I really enjoy this book too. And I'll briefly talk about this one because I have videos all about it, but it is called The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. You may have heard about this book. It's a 12-week course of going through figuring out maybe blocks that you have, like creative blocks you may have, like as a creative person, what you can do about it. It's kind of like a little bit of an art therapy-esque type book as well, but it's really fun. You do morning pages every single morning. You do prompts every single week. You go on an artist date every single week, and I thoroughly enjoyed doing this. I have a whole 3-part series on my YouTube, so I'll link that down below for you, and you can learn way more about this. But I did thrift this for $3.99, so I was pretty stoked to have found this book on sale. And because I got it on sale, and then it sat on my bookshelf for a little bit, and then I did it about a year ago. So I really like that. And I'm actually wanting to do more of her other books that I also thrifted, so I'll probably start that and then update you when I continue on this journey. So that's a really good one. Won't dive too much into it since I have videos on it. So check that out. Another book that's kind of like The Artist's Way that I really enjoyed reading is called Writing Wild by Tina Welling. I got this book when I used to live and work in the Grand Teton National Park years and years ago. And this is kind of geared towards writers. I'm not a writer. I am a painter, I'm an illustrator, I'm an artist in that way, but writers are also artists. So this definitely helped me also observe nature and be out in nature. She has this whole thing where you go out in nature, you sit down, you just listen, and you write down all of the senses around you, all 5 of your senses, and then you pick something up and then you can write about it. Well, I took this inspiration and actually made a video called How to Be Like a Naturalist, and I took her prompts, her way of doing things of writing, except I incorporated art and sketching into it. So you can also check out that video. I'll link it down below and maybe up in the cards as well. But this is a fantastic book for artists. I think it was a pretty short read. It wasn't like I highlighted so many things in here because I just loved the way of how she wrote this, and she will even have different things called Try This. So this particular one was today. Read the weather using all your senses. Record what you see, smell, feel, and hear. Check your body for responses. For example, old breaks in bones that ache from the cold, or dampness in the air, or a kind of excitement in the belly from detecting a change in the season. Predict the weather for the rest of the day. Write it down. This is a good way to deepen our relationship with the outdoors. So she has a really wonderful way about being out in nature. Like she said, deepening your relationship with the outdoors, noticing, observing. You can kind of see a pattern of what I like to do as an artist. I like to be out in nature as much as I can, observe, see the different things, make my field notes, bring it back to my studio, draw, paint. I just really love outdoors, and I always encourage you to get outside as well because it's good for your mental well-being. You're creating, even if it's a crappy little like sketch or something, totally okay. A lot of my sketches look like that too, but I really like Writing Wild. So these next books are ones that I got from artists that I follow. One, her name is Linda Papa. This is called Usai. I don't know how to say it, but it's a guide to ritual and connection with the elements. It's a small little book. It's about the fire, water, air, earth, and this has been such a fun little book for me to pick up, get to know the earth better. Again, you see a theme for me of being out in nature. She talks about the seasons in here, the moon phases in here. It's a little bit more spirituality. So if you're into that stuff, I would recommend this. I won't go too much into it. She has poems in here. It's such a beautiful artistic book to have and to thumb through and read, especially each of the seasons. Like spring is coming up, so so she kind of like organizes each of them with the air element. It's naturally affected by air are Geminis, Libras, and Aquarius, and I'm a Libra, so it actually kind of like works for me in that way. There's a thing about the tarot cards, the lunar phases, and so with spring it says, air rules the spring, a season of sprouting, blossoming, and growth. Air brings that fresh breath of air and new beginnings. It is a time of movement where all the animals make their way back outside or migrate to their destination for the warmer days. Suddenly, nature is filled with endless potential, possibilities, and surprises. Trees awaken from their winter sleep with new buds and flowers. Calling birds and bees to get to work participate in a beautiful symphony. Spring and air give us all an opportunity to plant seeds and to get to work. It is an ideal moment for creativity and initiative, for starting new projects and putting thoughtfulness into the things that will make a positive contribution into our lives. So I like reading each of the seasons when the season is approaching and going through this. So I really enjoy this little book. Another artist is Laura Sauter. I'm sorry, I don't know how to say your last name. But she's a wonderful artist on social media, and she makes her own paints. So this was a geology of color, and it's all about the rock pigments and how to go about making your own paints. I've been interested in that. And she has beautiful photographs. I actually also got this print right here of all the rocks that she's taken photos of and then she's created into paint. So she teaches you the process of all of that, and how to go about, with your scratch tests of taking rocks and scratching them on other rocks so that you can see if there's a lot of pigment coming off of this, and the leave no trace principles that you need to do because you can't just go take rocks from everywhere. It is nature, but you have to be respectful. So I really, really enjoyed this book. If you're an artist who wants to learn how to go about making your own paints, this is a fantastic one. So I really, really like this. This is getting taller. So now I'm going to go into more of my thrifted books. I'm not going to show every single one, but I picked ones that all represent similar ones. So when I go to the thrift store, I love going straight to where the books are. I like to look, if some of the thrift stores are organized, I like to go to the garden section, the nature section, the arts and crafts section. That's definitely my favorite area to look at first because I'm very interested in plants, in nature, in birds, and just as you have learned, the theme of what I like to look for is all very nature related. So one thing I like is always finding these field guide books. I actually have quite a few on my bookshelf. I just grabbed one just to represent them all. But I have this particular type, the Peterson field guides, that all look very similar, just different colors. I have other field guide ones too that are just by a different artist and, observer of nature. And I love thumbing through them, finding beautiful pictures within it. I'm definitely a person who looks more at the pictures than reads it all the time. But they're always just so beautiful. And then you can learn about them too. So I love when I've gone out in nature and I've taken pictures of flowers, mostly flowers right now, not so much plants. And then I come home and I look it up online, I figure out what it is, I bust these out to look and learn about them, about trees, flowers, butterflies. I also like getting books specifically as to where I live. So I have PNW type books of when I lived in the Pacific Northwest, and now that I live on the western slope of Colorado, I found this book called Colorado Flora, Western Slope, 3rd edition, and it talks about different flowers and whatnot, and it also has these really pretty just ink drawings. As you know, I like to draw in ink and graphite as well, so it's been really fun to go through here and use it as a reference book. So a lot of these books I can learn from, but then I also have books that are more reference material. So here's one, and I sometimes take off the covers because I like just the linen covers. But this is the Audubon Birds of America, and has really, really pretty pictures of birds. Like, look how pretty that is. It's so pretty. So I got this book specifically because it has birds with plants in it. It talks about each one, and just every single page has some sort of beautiful bird on it. Like, just here's the long-billed curlew. And it's just so pretty. Oh. So I've been getting into wanting to draw and paint birds and fish and like some more animals. Still very much in my plant landscape phase, but I did get this book so that I could start referencing birds. And then also when I go out and about, I could take pictures of birds, but sometimes that's a little trickier, so it is nice to have references as well. So sometimes I just get books because they have beautiful photos in them. That happens. Now, I have learned, because I used to have way too many books. Like, I have a lot of books and I like it, but I used to have like too many of them, and it was like overwhelming to choose which one for reference books. So I've kind of narrowed it down to my favorites. And one tip that I have, let me get it real quick. So this is my absolute favorite flower, like bouquet putting together type book. It's called The Country Flowers of a Victorian Lady by Fanny Robinson. Fanny Robinson, she would make these plates, like she would create all of these beautiful, beautiful illustrations, and then they've created it into a book, and it talks about each of the flowers in the bouquet and what it symbolized and what it meant to her. But I love this as a nice reference, and something I like to do even in the thrift store is I'll take my phone and I will snap a photo of it, and then I will switch it to black and white to see how good the values are, the lightest lights, the mid-tones, the super darks, because I have, circling back to when I used to have too many books and I didn't know which ones to reference, I'd always come back to this one because the values were so good. But then I had other beautiful floral like books and I loved them very much. But when I switched them to black and white to see those values, they were so light. Like there weren't like the contrast of the darks with the highlights. And I like to have good contrast to build depth with my drawings. So that's something I do like to do, is I like to take pictures, switch into black and white to see if it's going to be a really good reference book. But also, side note, you can totally get a book just because it's pretty, which I have done too, because I had a book I don't know where it is, but it wasn't as good of a book for reference for me with the values of it, but it was really pretty in the sense that I loved the little drawings that I ripped out some of the pages and cut them into these cute little frames. So I have a bigger one too somewhere in the house. And I just picked really pretty parts of it, cut it, and put it in here because this frame was probably $2 or $3. The book was probably $2 or $3. So for less than $10 now I have this really beautiful, beautiful little piece of artwork in my studio. So sometimes I also like to pick books that I can rip out pages and frame them. Not always just cutting it, but sometimes just framing it as the whole piece. So sometimes you can find reference books to decorate your studio with. And another book I got, I love this book, I got it for $2. Last year when we were traveling, we stopped into a thrift store and I was so excited to find this, but this is Tasha Tudor's garden. It's so beautiful. Like, if you haven't heard of Tasha Tudor, you will love all of her garden things. So this photographer went and met her at her home in her garden and took beautiful photos, just beautiful, stunning photos. Beautiful photos of her garden, and interviewed her and learned about what she loves about her garden. So there's even pictures of her in here. I mean, look at those flowers. I think those are foxgloves. Oh. And that's like her granddaughter, I think. And she just loved her garden. She had a cute secret garden that she wanted to keep secret, but then she loved it so much that anytime guests or family would come over, she'd take them to her secret garden. And this is just a stunning, beautiful book. And it also has little paintings that she did of her own garden, her own flowers that she did. And it's just, it goes through each of the seasons. Beautiful photography work. I love like how they would match. Here she is with her goats in her lupins, but then they put a little painting of one that she painted of a lupin. And it's so beautiful. I was so thrilled to find this for only $2. Mostly to flip through and read about, to learn what she did with her garden, because this is like a dream garden for me. I don't know if I'll ever have this large of a garden, depending on if I have space, but like, look at her home. It's so beautiful. Yeah, so again, sometimes you get books that are just like coffee table books, things to just flip through, and whatever you're most inspired by. Like if you like gardens, go to the garden section and flip through it and see if you really like it. With thrifted books, they're so inexpensive. They're usually like under $5, that if then you realize that it's not a good reference book for you, you can donate it back. You can give it to a friend, like I have done that, so that I can curate my own little library of my own reference books. Those are my physical books that I have, but I also have on my Libby app, through the library, I have been listening to audiobooks. If you watched my goals for 2024 video, I talked about how I'm not really an avid reader of like fantasy type books or other books. I do like reading some of those things, but I'm also listening to books to help me as an artist. So I have a list that I wanted to just kind of tell you that I've been doing so far this year. So I listened to, it was only 5 hours, and also I listen to my audiobooks when I'm in the car, especially since moving down here to Durango. The radio stations kind of aren't great here. They're not my type of music that I want to listen to, and since I don't have Spotify right now or any sort of musical thing to really listen to, I've been listening to audiobooks. So I listen when I'm in the car driving to do errands. I listen when I'm at home doing chores, especially like laundry, like folding laundry, when I'm in the closet putting it away and whatnot. So I just find little pockets of time to listen to these books, and it's been really enjoyable. So one that I have finished is The Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. Again, it was only 5 hours, and it was just so good. It was a good, like, just motivation to just find the magic in life and find that you can be an artist and you can take these bigger chances on yourself and your artwork. And I really enjoyed the ease of it, how simple it was. I listened to it when I would go to the gym and work out as well. So Big Magic was a really, really good one that I liked. The next book that I'm listening to that I'm almost done is Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer. I think it's how you say it. Now this is a much longer one. It's like 17 hours of listening. So I have been taking it the past couple of months, just little bit by bit. But it's so fascinating how she takes the scientificness of nature and then just the beauty and the magic of nature, and she just blends them well so wonderfully. And so I really, really enjoyed this book that I listened to. This one I like to listen to when I have longer like periods to listen, like when I go to the gym, if I'm going on a walk for like an hour or something. You can listen to it in little like 10-15 minutes here and there, but this one I prefer to listen to like chapter by chapter type of a thing. Another book that I'm waiting on, it's a 6-hour listen to, is The Creative Act by Rick Robin. I've heard other artists read this and they really, really enjoyed it. So that is one that is on my waiting list that I'm waiting, but I have other things to listen to right now, so totally okay. And I wanted to briefly talk about podcasts as well. So, Lauren Souder, again, I don't know if I'm saying your name correctly. Oh, I'm so sorry. But she started a podcast called Viewfinder, and she just has a peaceful way of looking about the world through a viewfinder, and it's a really wonderful podcast to listen to. So I enjoy listening to all of hers. And then there's another artist. Her name is Valerie McKeehan. She is a soft pastel artist, and so she has a podcast called Dear Creative Soul. And I thrifted this book called The Art of Pastel because seeing all of her beautiful work makes me want to try soft pastels. I just don't really have the space for it because it's a pretty messy medium to do, and I don't have a lot of desk space, and also my wallet, I can't buy every single art medium that I want to try, but it is something I want to try. But she has a really, really good podcast. I love listening to hers. So those are just 2 creative podcasts that I listen to, and some creative books that I'm listening to. I would love, love, love to know, what do you listen to? What are some books that I can borrow from the library, or podcasts that are also art related? I would absolutely love to listen and hear what you like to listen to too. And then of course there are always books that are in your wish list that you want to have. There are a couple, I wrote them down. They're by Phaidon, P-H-A-I-D-O-N. I'll put a picture of it. But there's the Flower Color Guide and the Flower Color Theory book. I think that these 2 books would be so fun to reference, especially with color. I have a lot of stuff about graphite and whatnot and color, but I would love to have books like that. Any Beatrix Potter type book. I love Beatrix Potter. She's the one that did Peter Rabbit and all the cute little tiny tale of this little goose or this little mouse or this little kitty cat or Peter Rabbit. So I love anything about her as well. So I am building my collection slowly, and I definitely love thrifting books. I love finding secondhand books. I think that it is just another way to give them life, and to also it's so much information. It's fantastic to find it that way. But any of these books, I will link down below for you, so that if you're interested in any of these books, by all means, find them at a thrift store, find them online on Amazon if they're on there. Yeah, so I really hope that you liked this video about all these books that I find to learn from, to reference from. I think that it's such a good way, especially if you didn't go to school, specifically for certain types of art, or you haven't taken a class. I think books are a fantastic way to learn, because the artist, the author, they put so much work into these. They put all their collective knowledge that they know about a certain topic and put it into each of these books. And so I learned so much from other artists. I did go to school for creative art. I did fine arts, graphic design, photography. I did all of it. So I learned so much from different professors and different students, my fellow students that I learned from, and just the different teachers. And books are just an extension of that. As I'm way past college now, I'm still learning from different artists and online as well, but I definitely love having books, right at my fingertips, right here on my bookshelf. That is all I'm going to tell you about today. I hope you liked it. Again, let me know what books you like reading, you like listening to, podcasts you might like to tell me about. Tell me if you have a book, if you have a podcast, if you have something. I'd love to know. I like learning from artists today as well. So I think that is it. I'm going to put all my books away, and I will see you all in the next one. Cheers.